OpenWire security. Bringing another video. This time it's going to be for the Ruby framework. A little bit different. Ruby requires a little bit of setup, so here we have the list of commands you would need to enter in order to get the Ruby framework to run. Feel free to go ahead and pause the video just so you can get all these installed. Alright, so once you get those installed, go ahead and clear that up. So once you get that installed, go ahead and go to the Ruby directory, which is in OpenWire / OpenWire Ruby. To run it, just do open frame. That brings up a little dialog. As you can see, we have two different versions. We have client and command line interface and web. The Rails version, which is the web, is currently not working. We're still working on little issues with that. But for now, we're just going to look at the command line version. So to run the command line, type open frame and then -c or --CLI. So what it's going to do is bring up that familiar interface you guys know from the PHP version. The commands are pretty much the same thing. So to bring up the list of commands, just type help. So as you can see, we have the list of commands that you can run. Ruby's got a couple other things that we added. For example, local drops into an actual shell. You can do RB and actually execute Ruby commands straight from here. So let's go ahead and get started. So to show the list of available modules, we just type list. So this is the list of modules we have. There's a lot more than what we saw in the PHP framework. That's just because I'm using a newer version of the Ruby than we have the PHP. But all the frameworks share the same modules, just written in different languages. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So for this example, we're just going to use a Bing search. So just like the PHP framework, we're just going to do load, and then we don't have to type aux or anything like that, just the name of the module. So Bing search, Bing, press enter. Alright, so it's loaded. So now all we need to do is define some variables. So if we want to see what variables we need, just type show variables. So it goes and go ahead and gives you a list of variables and stuff like that. This is pretty nice because like you can set search terms and stuff like that. Now basically what it does, this basically runs a Google dork, but in this case I guess it would be a Bing dork. Basically it just returns back a bunch of URLs that may or may not be vulnerable to SQL injection. So we're not going to touch anything for right now. Just go ahead and run it as it is. So just type exploit. Give it a second. There you go. So as you can see, returned a whole list of stuff. At the top, you can actually see what the dork was, country code, and stuff like that. You can actually specify these in the up top. This is very useful for if you're doing penetration testing on a site. You can actually specify the search terms. So you can do site and then whatever site you're doing, and then try to find like local file inclusions, remote file inclusions, RCE or SQL injection, cross-site scripting, stuff like that. It actually helps you automate that task to get a better understanding of how the sites run, any vulnerabilities it may have, which can actually help out your client. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go over any more modules. So let's go ahead and look at how the modules are laid out. Let's go to plugins. So let's go to Bing search and take a look at it. As you can see, this looks pretty similar to how PHP is written. The way this works is basically the kind of the same thing where we use extend in PHP. We just can use these these two I don't know what the hell they're called, hyphens I guess, or colons. Basically we're extending core shell and using Bing search, which basically imports all the modules and stuff like that into the core. So we're initializing module name, sub Bing search. Remember this from the PHP version where you can set name. This one's got a version control. Some description, and then who wrote it. In this case, our good friend Hooded Robin wrote this. It's a great PHP programmer. Here's where we can define some variables. So search term is required, right? So we can set that dynamically, but we just have a default value, just to show you how it actually runs. Here's some different I guess variables you can set. Like I showed you before, com. So the .com, you can set .net, org, .gov, .mil, all that kind of stuff. Proxy IP, if you're using proxy, Tor, or anything like that, you can actually specify the proxy and then the port. So if you're using Tor, it'd be your local host and then 9051. Username and password is going to get used for if you have to log into the proxy or anything like that. Skip all this. Alright, so this is the core of the exploit. Basically we're using a curb request, or it's basically CRL. Basically it sends a request to Bing, and then Bing will actually act back with a list of results, and then we just filter out anything we don't need. So basically we'll return a whole list of results, and all we'll do is filter out everything but the URL. So that's basically what all this is doing. That's pretty much it for the modules. HR is going to be putting together some documentation on actually how to build your own modules, stuff like that. So look for that video later. Thanks guys.